Audrey's Corner Luncheon. This is a activity set up to show support for a new senior center. Here we have some of the seniors setting up the tables, getting ready for the luncheon. Space is limited, so we have to set up in between two other activities in order to have the luncheon. Within a very short time, about 100 patrons enter the reception hall and park their cars at the small parking area and down below in the high school parking area.
It's a little bit early, but in case you would like to meet JoMarie, everybody know who she is? Yeah. She's a Selectwoman for Wilmington. And so I guess we are a little early, but I think everybody's here. So I'm just going to let her say whatever she'd like to say.
Very dangerous to give me a microphone and no script, Audrey. Good morning, everybody. I'm JoMarie O'Mahony. Joe is a lot easier, so please just call me Joe. Let me know if you can't hear. Raise your hand if you can't hear me. I tend to speak loudly, and I'm hoping not too quickly today. My mom yells at me that I ramble sometimes. But Audrey invited me to come today to introduce myself, first of all, since I'm kind of the rookie on the board this year. And I'm going to be, running again next year, hopefully. So you're not going to get rid of me just yet. The only 7th female to be on the Board of Selectmen in Wilmington, which normally doesn't mean much. I don't take that to mean too much, but I think it's significant. I think it's hopefully something that we'll continue to work on. I have to say, the board that I'm working with right now has been very welcoming, very helpful, very encouraging. I liken this, and Jeff Hull, shakes his head. He's still getting used to me. He's still getting used to my humor. Poor Jonathan has to sit next to me, so if you may see him grimacing during a meeting, it's because I've said something under my breath that he's just like, what are you doing right now? Being on the Board of Selectmen and really being in this role, let me back up just a minute. I have 4 children. I've lived in Wilmington since 2003. I'm the youngest of 5, but I am the blessed one that takes care of my mother, who still lives in Burlington, but is basically in Wilmington all the time. A lot of you have probably seen her because I know she crashes events here once in a while as well. And Terri has definitely had her fill of Marie Ardito over the years. So my life before being on the Selectmen was already one of those vaudeville routines of spinning plates on sticks and hoping, the most important plate wouldn't crash that day. And that's pretty much how I look at my personal life to begin with, is a juggling act. I'm also the president of We're One Wilmington. I was one of the founding members of it. So I'm very proud of that. I'm on a bunch of different boards in town. So I was invited today as a member of the Selectmen, but hopefully you've known me for other things, and those things haven't been diminished. I want to make sure that that's clear. Before I decided to run, I met with every one of my boards. So I'm on the board of WCTV, I'm on the board of We're One Wilmington, I'm on the Wilmington Housing Authority as a state appointee, and it was really important for me to make it clear to them that if they thought this new role was going to somehow be a distraction for what they were doing, I would step down or I would step back. And that's an ongoing discussion that I have with them. So I want you to understand that, because I stand here today kind of as the newest Board of Selectmen member, but I wear a lot of hats in town. So if you ask me you can ask me any question you want. Unfortunately for my children, I have a very high threshold of embarrassment. So I will answer any question that you have for me today. I will answer. Whether it's the answer you want to hear, I don't know, but it will definitely be an answer that comes from my heart and my head. So I'm here today to talk to you about senior issues, to introduce myself. Audrey, as you probably all know, has made it clear that the senior center is in need of some attention. And hopefully I made it clear at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting that I agree with that assessment. I've seen signs around here that September 30th we're having a big meeting to discuss the facilities in town, to talk about kind of the old strategic plan that we had in place, the master facilities plan, and how we see that moving forward. So again, I go back to you know, the plate's on a stick. You know, it's also kind of the domino effect. And I want to make sure we're doing things the right way, in the right order. Because we can't, you know, when we talk about replacing one school, okay, so where does that school go? So then the domino goes down a little further. You know, we move the senior center to something that makes more sense for your needs. What does the space become? Those are all kinds of the discussions that I want to have. I do have to say, you know, I'm also a state employee, so I'm an attorney for the Department of Children and Families, right? So I'm very well used to kind of the joke of government work is at a snail's pace. Unfortunately, in my world, it's the exact opposite because I'm dealing with children and families in crisis. But I want you to understand that I want to be thoughtful in implementing the plan that I think the town needs to implement. And I don't want you to get frustrated if that seems to be going slower than you would like. If I could wave a magic wand, we would be in a new space right now, and I would just be here eating a hot dog with you and talking about how, you know, your boot camp is going, because that's still amazing to me that you guys do it. Unfortunately, you know, we're in this space, and I don't like the idea that you guys have trouble parking. I don't like the idea that you're now having some of your events at the 4th of July building and you're not able to be all together as kind of a community up here. So I've heard you. The bottom line is I've heard you. But I've also heard your other concerns, and that's where it becomes this juggling act again, right? The top three senior issues I've heard since I've been on the board and when I was running for this office is you don't want your taxes to go up anymore, right? And you want a bigger senior center because that makes sense. And the third one, which I see you counting on your hands, and I'm like, I had all three in my head. And the third one is to make sure that you still feel like you're a valued part of our community, right? Those are the top three things I've heard. You don't want your taxes to go up. You don't want, you want a bigger space. And the valued part of your community, I lump into that the affordable housing component. And again, I can't ignore the fact that I'm on the Wilmington Housing Authority, so I know what's going on at Deming Way, and I know we need more space. So I understand those problems, I understand those issues. Now we have to figure out the solutions, and that's where it becomes more complicated, right? So the first kind of step, I don't have a full plan yet. If I did, you know, that would be amazing. But the first step that I'd like to see happen is, as some of you who watch the Selectmen's meetings have seen, you know, we have committees. We have a committee right now to explore if we should have an ice rink in our town, which I've insisted should also be called an indoor recreational facility. The reason I insist it should be called that is not because I don't think an ice rink would be valuable, but an ice rink has a very specific population. And I feel like we spend a lot of time in town, and thankfully I have 4 children, so I appreciate all of the attention that the town has given on making sure our children feel like they have all the space that they need. But I don't think it should be a but anymore. It shouldn't be an or anymore. We should be creating space that everyone in town can use, right? And that's why I don't want you to get frustrated when I say this, but when I think of a future senior center, I think of it as a senior center that's also a community center. Because the reality is that you guys probably aren't gonna be going out at night to do all the same activities that you would be doing during the day. And kids in this town have very limited indoor places where they can go to do activities. They go to Villanova Hall, and that's about it. Maybe if, you know, they're lucky enough to get a school on board to have a custodian there at night, they can have it at a school. But we don't have a place right now. Like when I want to do something for Ware One Wilmington, I have to do it at Villanova Hall because there's really no other space that makes sense. And that needs to change as well. And it makes sense to me that most of your needs are kind of during the school day anyway. So why wouldn't we try to explore that option? So the first step in my opinion is to get a committee together. We have one for an ice rink, why wouldn't we have one for the seniors? So that's my hope, you know, and as I was joking with Audrey, as I've learned on this board is, I don't think I'm gonna get pushback on getting a committee together, but I think to get everyone to nominate someone and get a committee formed is probably gonna take a little while. So I don't want you to get frustrated in that process, but my hope is that it's on an October agenda and that the committee is fully formed by the end of the year. That's what I would be trying to push forward with my board members. I don't see them having a problem with that, but that's the first step. So then I put it back on you guys. At this point, I've told you what I think the issues are that I've heard. Tell me more. Tell me if there's something I'm missing. You know, and more importantly, get involved in that process a little bit more. And I know, you know, I work full time. I will try to be here as much as I can. You know Audrey, she knows how to get in touch with me. Jonathan's parents are here. I'm gonna throw him on the bus right now that he's gonna help out in this process, because I know he will. I feel confident that in this situation we're definitely of like minds. So get the word to us, get the word to me. Whether it's by writing an email, I'll come, when you have events like this, or you wanna have something like this, I'll come. I'll bring whoever you want me to bring with me so that we can have a real discussion. And I do know, I know one of the concerns was that facilities meeting on September 30th is at night and it's at a school, which seems a little suspicious that it's at the school that we're trying to replace, right? I can read between the lines pretty easily on that one, I'm sure you can as well. But Greg Bendel is already committed to having another meeting here during the day. And I'm hoping he's gonna schedule that for sometime in October and you'll be made aware of that. So you're not forgotten. I hear you. So with that all being said, who has any questions for me? Because I know you guys want to eat and play bingo. Go ahead.
Yes, we absolutely 1,000,000% need a larger facility. And it's been, one thing that's been jogged around is the Glen Road School.
Okay.
Right, because of the old town hall.
Mm-hmm.
But before they were to do anything, we have to build a new building. So how many years would it be, how many years in the future would it be before the seniors could see something in this town? They have a beautiful piece of land that they just purchased, and it's a beautiful piece of land. But we can do a lot of talking and make a lot of noise.
Yep.
I've been here for 70 plus years on the same piece of land, and I've seen a lot of changes, and some not great, But the thing is, time-wise, we can talk forever, but
Yep.
time-wise, is there a future when something can be possibly done in the near future?
I would hope,
Excuse me,
go ahead, Audrey.
as we didn't give him a mic.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
No, people
So
don't.
he asked basically if there was a timeline, if this was something that was kind of gonna be in the forever future, or if this is something that we could see in the foreseeable future so that you guys kind of had something to be working towards and not have this be something that we're talking about for the next 20 years. Is that a fair summary?
Yes.
So again, this is when the dominoes happen, right? Because I've heard that same idea, that we put the senior center over at the Glen Road, the current town hall, and then we have to convince the town to build a new town hall.
Exactly.
Right? And the new town hall, I don't think should be in the top 5 of the priority list. However, I think the senior center is in the top 5 of the priority list, if I had to guess. So my answer to you is, as long as I'm on the board of selectmen, I want this to be on the priority list, and I think there are ways that we can bump it up the list. I honestly think, I'm curious to hear what the schools have to say on the 30th, because right now we have 6 schools that service kindergarten through 5th grade. We have 6 buildings that service kindergarten through 5th grade. And to me, if we're looking at ways that we can modify and kind of consolidate and streamline the process of our town, I don't think we need 6 buildings to have K through 5. I think there is a way that we could take, 1 building on each side of town and expand it in some manner, so that we at least free up 2 buildings. And I would be looking at that as, okay, does that make sense for a new senior center? Does that make sense to make a municipal building? Because I know the Roman House and Town Hall have been, on the radar forever. Consolidate them into 1 building, make the senior center another building. That prime piece of land you're talking about, I'm assuming it's that piece of land next to St. Dorothy's. I still have hopes that will be affordable housing. I know that sounds crazy. I know we have an economic development committee right now that's in charge of trying to figure out that corridor so that we don't have even more traffic issues and we have vacant commercial property. But to me, that would make sense to have senior housing there. Because you can walk to church, you can walk to the senior center if it is behind Glen Road or whatever that building might be. You can walk down to Market Basket. So those are my high level dreams, but the reality is, we have to see what step 1 is going to be. To me, step 1 is making sure your voice is heard. And that's what I can promise to do. I'm hoping we'll have more clarity after that September 30th meeting, after the October meeting we have here, and we can start implementing a real plan. I also, believe we need a substation in town for the fire department on the other side of town. So to me, that's, again, if you want to know what's in my top 5, that's probably number 1 for me. I was reviewing, you know, preparing to run for this office, I was kind of reviewing some of the press from way back when and was shocked that one of my opponents, the last time he ran was like 2002, so that was before I was a resident here, and they were still talking about a substation and the need for it in 2002. So that's unacceptable to me that 17 years later we're having the same discussion. So if 17 years from now this is still the same senior center, then I have failed miserably in my role on the board, because it should not take that long for us to address this issue, I would say. Who else has?
Spin off of that one. How about fundraising? With fundraising, I mean, it would take longer for sure,
Yeah.
but I was in charge of fundraising for the St. Thomas's Youth Center, and it took us a while, but we did it. And the same thing with the playground at the Shawsham School.
Yep, and Yentile did it. He had a separate fundraising committee to help offset the cost there. So I think that's a great idea. And I know, do you guys all know who Stacy Murphy is? She's on the housing, I know Audrey does. She's on the housing authority with me, and I know she's been exploring, you know, unfortunately we just got a memo from DC saying they don't really have any grants or funding available to expand their housing situation at the moment, which isn't surprising to us, but it's kind of disappointing that they put it in writing. But I know she's exploring other funding options and talking to Dave Robertson, Senator Tarr, and, you know, Representative Gordon to see what's available to us to get something going. You know, but it's like anything else. We're all pulling at the same strings. I think we want to make sure we're trying to explore alternative funding so that we're not touching our tax bases at all.
Do you have a card?
I can. Is there a place to write somewhere, Terry, that I can just? I'll put my cell phone number and my email address on the board, if that's okay.
That would be good.
And that way you can take it down. Audrey, like I said, Audrey knows how to get in touch with me, so my cell phone number has been out to the world for years, so definitely call me. If it's during the workday, don't get frustrated if I can't always answer, but I will call you back as soon as I can.
Okay.
I'm done.
And I. Is that, you know, you brought up the fact of that committee. And you know what, that committee for the rink came up really quick.
Yep.
And to wait until the end of the year, that's like a long time.
It is.
So if there's a possibility of really coming up with that committee, I think you'd have a lot of people cheering here, because that's really one step closer.
Okay, so can you all hear me without a microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. So my hope is, so we have a meeting September 23rd that I'm not confident I'm gonna get on the agenda for the committee on that one, because we don't have the facilities meeting yet. And I think that's gonna be the key to kind of convincing my colleagues. And again, I don't see any reluctance. I think they're gonna be okay with it. At the October meeting, my intention is to get the board to approve the formation of the committee. But what happens in formulating committees is every board member is going to have the ability to appoint someone to the board. I'm sure Terri will be invited to the board, and other kind of players in the town who would have, you know, thoughtful input into the situation. So they have to give the board time to appoint the people. So just as an example, I came onto the board kind of inheriting nominations for a board that had been formulated a year earlier and hadn't actually been completely formulated because not everyone had been nominated. The bylaws committee, the inhabitant bylaws committee, I don't know if anyone has heard about it, but just saying the name makes me a little tired. My intention is to have the board approved, the committee approved at the October meeting, and all the nominations to be done so that everybody can be appointed and nominated by, and I say by the end of the year because I just don't know how quickly my colleagues will appoint people. So that's gonna be, so if you know a Board of Selectmen member and you wanna be on that committee, start harassing them. Tell them JoMarie said I could harass you, they're gonna love me. That you wanna be on that board, that you wanna be on that committee. And that'll get them to move quicker, for sure, okay?
Yep.
Here you go.
I just want to thank Joe for coming. I'm going to read this so I don't forget what I'm saying. This luncheon is really just to keep the conversation going, to keep it out there. and to remind you to come to the Selectmen's meeting on the 30th at the Wildwood School at 7 o'clock. It's posted around the center. If you don't remember it from here, you can find it out there. If you need a ride because you don't drive at night, you can go to the front office here and sign up, and they'll get you to the meeting, okay? And we designed a support pin for everybody to wear to the Selectmen's meeting on the 30th. So when we show up with this pin on, and we're on TV, they all will know why we are there, and who we are, and why we're there. And I'll show you the pin right now. And you can get it at the front office. Oh, wait a minute, let me just finish the rest. I guess that's it. Oh, sorry. My friend Mark over there is video so that I can look at it and see what Joe said, or somebody else asked a question, because I wouldn't be able to write it all down and remember it. So I just have that as a secretary. How's that? Anyways, and he has what are these cards? What are they called? Anyways, it's his card to tell you how you can find all the interviews that has happened at the senior center. He comes in and asks you questions, why you come to the senior center, why you think we need a bigger place. And it's all on this little card. He'll give you one over there after, if you'd like. Okay. It's CTV, and you look up the Zell Buzz podcast, and then they'll show all the different interviews on there. And here's his card as a reminder. And now I'll show you the pin.
So the pin says, "Better together with your support. It's our time for a new senior center." So as Audrey said, you can go up to the front and get one of these pins, and that's, the goal is for the 30th. But not just for the 30th. If you could wear that pin every single day that you go out to Market Basket, keep it on your coat now that the cool weather's coming, or your pocketbooks or whatever. Remember when we had those smiley faces? That was the theme, to be happy. Well, think of this pin as your smiley face to be happy. Because the way, let's give a round of applause to Audrey to get this conversation going. None of this can happen without all of your support and following Audrey's conversation, okay? Audrey, you're talking. But to follow her conversation, because she has started this road trip. And now we need to jump on the bus. Audrey. Do you see why we're all a team? That team is also Laura. So, it's really important that we keep this going. This is the first of many little things we're going to have to keep you informed. It is going to start on the 30th. Awesome the fact that we've had support from Jonathan Eaton and JoMarie, because his parents are right here with us. You know what? This is only the beginning. We cannot get burnt out. Your generation is a powerful generation. Not only in the past that you have what you have happened to do a lot, but you're strong in numbers, and you people forget that. You make up a large population of this town of Wilmington. Do not let them forget it. There are certain things that are happening within the town that we cannot just sit by and this is your time. And just like that pin that Audrey developed, it's our time. You need to put it on and let them know you feel it is your time. So are we feeling it?
Yes.
And are we going to continue to feel it?
Yes.
All right. So let's on go. Let's cheer it on. Let's get this thing off the road. No more. Oh, you're so nice. Everything. We are being listened to. Okay? All right. Who wants a hot dog? All right. Thank you so much. Any last minute words, Audrey? All right. We are good for today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Video shows Audrey showing off the pin to the rest of the seniors. The rest of the video shows the seniors chowing down on hot dogs and chips and continuing their enthusiastic conversation about a new senior center and the possibilities. This part of the video shows Terri and the staff constructing the hot dogs and the fixings. Don't forget, call JoMarie and send her an email to voice your support for a new senior center.